Hello, everyone. I think this is working now. This is our last market update of the week. Just a quick one, really, just to see where everything is ending the week. Let me just put the risk warning up before we start. Let's get that up there. I think there's a couple of people saying they can't see it, so I'll just wait just for YouTube to catch up with stuff. There we go. I think that's working. So we've done this 3 times this week. We've done it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We normally do it every Wednesday, and it's a catch up with what's been going on with markets, what to look out for in the days ahead. I think it's been an interesting week. We've seen stock markets recover in the first half of the week after the big sell-offs from last week, and then lose some ground yesterday, but hold above the lows. We'll look at those in a sec. The pound started off strong this week, but yet again on this on the Brexit, on the news yesterday that maybe the transition period will be longer than was first thought, saw a bit of weakness for the pound. So again, it's the usual Brexit uncertainty. And the price of oil has slipped a bit this week, below $70. So let's take a look. We'll just have a quick look around these markets, just to catch up with what's been going on. I think let's start off with stock markets, because I think that's been perhaps the more volatile one of the week. We've got the S&P here, so the broader US stock market. Let's just zoom in. So this is the daily chart. Let me get rid of that moving average. So here's our daily chart. These are the big sell-offs that we saw to the end of last week. We saw a bit of stability coming in this week. Let me just flip this over to an hourly now. So we had a really strong recovery on Tuesday. I think we were looking at this in Wednesday's session. You know, every hour on Tuesday during official hours trading, we saw this market just rally a little bit quieter then, and then we did sell off yesterday, but from about 6 o'clock, so with 3 hours left to go, we saw US markets turn it around a little bit. And this was always going to be the test, I think, after we'd seen this bounce back after the steep fall. How deep did the sell-off go? And so far, at least, the fact that we stopped yesterday around about 27.55, it does add some weight to this recovery still being intact, I think. So going into this afternoon, I think the obvious level to watch on this one, we'll look at the DAX in a minute, the German index. Just watch yesterday's low. If it comes under pressure this afternoon, let's see how it performs ahead of yesterday's low. But for now, I think we are still in recovery mode. So maybe the interim target is a run back up to these old highs around about 28.20 on the S&P. But let's look at the DAX. I think the DAX, we've seen an interesting move today. The DAX is one of our most heavily traded markets, and I go on in these sessions about the importance of big levels, and we saw this play out today in the DAX. I think when it comes to looking for trading opportunities and where do your stops go, let's look at what was happening yesterday in the DAX. So yesterday during the US session, the German DAX traded as low as 11,480, recovered as US markets recovered. So bounced back about 50-60 points. Gapped open this morning, so 7 o'clock this morning, the DAX was trading at 11.6. All right, the low from yesterday was left at 11,480. So the market came under pressure, but look where it's turned around today. Again, it's ahead of those lows from yesterday. So yesterday's lows, 11,480. It's traded as low as 11,490 this morning, and it spent a bit of time there. From 10 to 11 through to 10 past 11. So it spent 20 minutes hanging around yesterday's low. And I think don't underestimate the importance of previous days' highs and lows when it comes to picking turning points for what's going on today. So we've seen a really strong bounce back. The next obvious level to watch, the highs from earlier this morning. If we see more strength, 11,620 was the high. What was it? About 7:15 this morning. So let's see what happens this afternoon. But so for now on the DAX, if we did see it come under pressure this afternoon, watch how it performs if we get back to 11,500. Okay, but I think a bit of weakness yesterday in stock markets, but it hasn't yet changed the story of this sort of recovery mode that we've been in so far this week. The pound, I've done a couple of trades on the pound this week, one small winner and one loser. And earlier this week, I was saying on Monday, when we looked at this Monday, this is pound US dollar, we had that gap open on Sunday night in Asian trade, and I was saying, well, maybe 130.80 ends up being something of an important level. The market then rallied, so from Sunday through to when's that? Wednesday. What's the date today? It's the 19th today, isn't it? 19th. So Sunday through to Tuesday, we saw real strength after that low. Came back down. I ended up buying it here, just really looking for those lows to hold. Yeah, so a little bit of a wiggle below, pushed a bit higher, dragged a stop up, got stopped out for a little bit, and then bought it again, thinking this is a false break. But we've taken out those lows. So we're actually, if we're looking at where we are today for pound US dollar, it's a pretty negative finish for the week. Yeah, we're finishing pretty much having set fresh lows yesterday, late in the session yesterday, or actually even early this morning. Fresh lows around about 130.10. So it's all that Brexit stuff yet again coming back. But if we flip it over to the daily, maybe some of the levels to look at next week, I think going back to the daily chart, the big level is 129. It's the lows from September the 10th and the lows from the 2nd and the 3rd of October. So at the moment, we're about 100 points above that level. But let's see what happens. If maybe we have a bit of a weaker session this afternoon, and then maybe Monday we see it under a bit of pressure as well. But watch that 129 level, see what happens here. But this has definitely been, I think, a week of two halves when it comes to pound US dollar. Let's take a look at gold. Gold's been an interesting market. We did a video on this week on the YouTube channel, just saying, is this the start of a major turnaround for that arrow? Every time I delete it, every time it comes back. So is this the start of a major turnaround for gold? It's been a boring couple of months. This is the daily chart we're looking at, and it's really woken up the last couple of weeks. We've broken out. If we plonk a trend line on here, hang on, let's pick up on that. So looking something like that. So this trend line had kept the price of gold down since April, when it was at 13.50, and it traded as low as 11.60 in August. Bit of a bounce, and then pretty sideways since then. But over the last couple of weeks, I think because of dollar weakness, stock market weakness, we've seen the price of gold perk up. And I think the question is this a trend reversal? You can see whatever moving average this is, the 50-day moving average, did a pretty good job of keeping it down as well. So it's broken up above all these sort of barriers that had held it down for the last 6 months. In the short term, it's maybe a bit overheated. It's gone from 11.80 to as high as 12.30. We've seen a $50 move in a couple of weeks for the price of gold. So it's a chunky old move. So again, I think like with stock markets this week, the test is going to be if it starts to sell off from here, from 12.28, 12.27, where does it stop? So for me, if it sold off and then bounces, that's maybe the better opportunity. But I think that there's, at the moment at least, there's no doubt for me that it does look like quite a shift in sentiment towards gold over the last couple of weeks or so. And I think it's going to be a market. It's going to be an interesting market to watch now for the rest of the year after doing nothing for a while. Then finally, it's sort of woken up and got a bit of a move on. So that's gold. Let's look at oil. I think this is the other interesting one. We've seen. Let's just bring this up. Let's just take this out to a daily view first of all. So it was only when was it? Earlier this month. Yeah, the 3rd of October. This is the US crude oil we're looking at. So it was only the 3rd of October that we saw the price of oil hit pretty much 4-year highs. So it's best levels since November 2014. And of course, in oil, there's this big trend going back to June of last year, from about $42 a barrel. I think the level was. I keep clicking on the wrong thing here. Hold on a second. Let's pick it up off here. What am I doing? So our trend looks, maybe something like that. There we go. So there's our big trend for oil from June of last year. It's lost about $8 in the last 2 or 3 weeks, the price of oil. But it's interesting because it's getting knocked back to that bigger trend. So I think it's going to be an interesting market next week, oil, because we've got these levels coming in from 67 down here, these old lows from down here as well. What's that, about 66? So this whole 66 to maybe 68 area is the one to watch for oil next week. That big trend is still up. On the RSI, not surprisingly, given the weakness, it's near oversold. It hasn't quite gone oversold, not like back here. That was the last oversold signal we had for the price of oil. So we're not quite down to those extremes, but it's getting back to a zone where if it's going to bounce back from anywhere, then this is the place. So I think it's going to be an interesting one to watch next week. But if that trend is going to continue, we wouldn't really expect to see much of a move through $66 for oil. Let's flip it over to the hourly chart. There we go. It's pretty quiet so far. I mean, for much of this week, we were talking about this on Wednesday. $70.50, held the market up for a good 3 days this week, 3 or 4 days. So there were, short-term opportunities there for maybe, 100 points or so. And then it went crashing through that old support. And we've seen it push a bit lower. So I think that the test is going to be what happens if we come back to that old trend line for oil. So I think the daily chart is maybe the more important one here. And I think that's it. I think for the end of the week, I mean, clearly we've still got US markets to open this afternoon. So I think that's maybe the more interesting one, looking at the likes of, let's have a look at the Dow. If we bring up the Dow, after a bit of a wobble yesterday, the Dow traded as low as 25,250-ish. It's 200 points above that level. If we see the market under pressure this afternoon, let's just see what happens if we get back to these lows. But assuming the lows for the week so far and from a week ago stay intact, I think we're still in recovery mode for these stock markets. So maybe in the short term, at least, the worst has been and gone. Famous last words. We'll wrap things up there. We'll do this all again on Monday. So we'll see how markets are looking for the week ahead. We'll do it 12:30 on Monday lunchtime. As usual, if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, you'll get a notification. To find out more about the company, go to Capital.com. You can open an account, open a demo account, get access to the platform I've been using today. And any questions, just drop me an email, david.jones@capital.com. But that's it. That's it for this week. Have a good weekend, and we'll see where we are on Monday.